Welcome to my aquatic playground, the temperate waters of Port Phillip Bay and the Victorian coastline, right down in the southeast of Australia. I've grown up in Melbourne's inner west suburbs, where I've had access to this unique marine environment that has more biodiversity than the Great Barrier Reef, and where around 80% of our marine life here can't be found anywhere else in the world. We have lots of colourful sponges, swaying kelp beds, seagrass meadows and rocky reefs to explore. We also have seals that haul out in favoured spots, and even our own species of dolphin. Of course, being a temperate environment with exposure to Bass Strait, the water here can get pretty chilly. It usually only gets as warm as about 22 or 23 degrees in the summer, but most of the year the water drops below 20 and can reach as painfully cold as 10 degrees in the winter. Still, it's fun to enjoy at any time of the year. I love enjoying the bay in the warmer summery weather, where the days are longer and the water a more comfortable temperature. But I also love being able to enjoy the beach to myself in the winter, when the cold scares most people away. I love heading down the coast, where I've spent a lot of time over the years playing in the surf. When I was little, I loved jumping over waves with my dad, and then the rush of riding waves all the way to the shore on my boogie board when I was older. Now, I just love diving under waves, and the sensation of the water's force rushing over me. If you don't mind the drive, there's so much coastline in Victoria to play in. I'm particularly fond of the Great Ocean Road, with its coastal towns backed by mountain and rainforest, limestone cliffs, and winding roads with incredible views of the vast open ocean. Torquay, the gateway to the Great Ocean Road, is my go-to spot whenever I'm after some waves. Aside from enjoying the surf, when I was younger, I also used to enjoy exploring the Rocky Point, with its many tidal pools and rocky archways to climb under and even swim through when the tide was out. Growing up, I was lucky enough to go on many weekends away with my family, most of which were spent in seaside places. I used to love Easter, when we'd spend the long weekend with a group of family friends in one of my absolute favourite places in the world, Apollo Bay. We'd stay in these cabins at the front of a caravan park atop this little hill across the road from the beach. I loved being able to just cross the road to get to the water whenever I wanted. So needless to say, I spent many hours in the water over the years there, boogie boarding and diving under waves. If I wasn't in the water, then I was getting a good view of it from our balcony. These days, I spend most of my time snorkeling, diving or swimming in Port Phillip Bay. You're probably most likely to find me swimming about at Altona Beach, only because it's the closest beach to me. And though it's far from my favourite beach, I already find the 15-minute drive there way too long a drive to get to a beach, so I'm hardly going to drive any further than I need to when I want to go for a swim. The visibility there isn't usually the greatest, but there are patches of seagrass and algal growth where I swim out towards the back, where I can usually find 11-armed sea stars. I've also run into some stingrays on the sandy bottom from time to time. It's nice getting the chance to get to other beaches like Williamstown and Brighton and Mordialloc that, in addition to being generally nicer, also have rocky reefs that can be found amongst the open sandy floors that are fun to look around. I'm a 10 to 15 minute drive away from two different marine sanctuaries. Admittedly, I've still never been to Point Cook Marine Sanctuary, despite it being the closest one to me. But I've been to Jawbone in Williamstown a number of times, with its colourful kelp and seagrass beds. And where, like many other places you can dive or snorkel in the bay, it's fun to try and spot different nudibranch, who come in all different kinds of colours and patterns. You just need a keen eye to find them. Staying at my grandparents' was great, because they lived in the inner southeastern suburbs and closer to even nicer beaches. They weren't far from another marine sanctuary I've often been to, Ricketts Point, and from Half Moon Bay, where in addition to some rocky reef, there's this sunken shipwreck that you can get to from the shore that's fun to dive or snorkel around. They were also closer to the Mornington Peninsula, where I love being able to head down and wish I could live, because the beaches there are my favourite in the bay. There are so many great places to snorkel and dive. There are all these little rocky reefs that have formed along the base of the cliffs and the headlands around the peninsula. And while piers generally sprout marine ecosystems, the piers along the peninsula are particularly enriched with life and awesome to explore. They attract an incredible amount and range of marine life, including Australia's largest stingrays, the giant smooth ray, that although they grow to be 4 metres long and over 2 metres wide, are actually quite placid and gentle, and will even come right up to you and let you glide alongside them. The pier pylons are covered in all these sponges and algae, and attract cool marine life like crabs and sea stars and nudibranchs that are all fun to try and spot. Blairgowrie Pier, where I've dived the most, has this long wall covered in sponges and mats along the bottom that are covered in growths of algae. Diving Blairgowrie can be like playing a game of hide and seek, because there are all these shrimp and little blennies that like to hide amongst the sponges, and fish and stingrays, and sometimes even cuttlefish, that hide under the mats, not to mention all the nudibranchs scattered about. Though I don't really like hiking up the annoyingly long pier in all my dive gear to get to the lower landing, there's so much life to enjoy under Rye Pier. It's a great spot for hanging out with schools of squid and finding seahorses and octopus. There's also an artificial reef a short ways out past the end of the pier, which is a bit weird and honestly kind of just looks more like a little junkyard, but it's something different. I love exploring the seagrass meadows under and around Portsea and Flinders Pier, where the weedy sea dragons live. They can be a little tricky to spot because they blend in pretty well with their environment, but it's always exciting when I find one. Another cool and exciting thing about the marine environment here is that there are different things to see at different times of the year, like the incredible spectacle of the thousands of giant spider crabs that migrate here each year around May to July to molt in the largest known crab migration on the planet. We also get whales in the colder months, but I'm still holding out to see one. I may personally prefer the tropics, but I know how lucky I am to live near such an abundant and incredibly unique marine environment. And though I know there are lots of great sites to dive further out in the bay, as someone who hasn't been able to afford to just head out with a dive charter to access them, I'm also lucky that there's so much I can see and enjoy just meters off the shore around the bay. I hope more people can appreciate the unique and generally incredible coastal and marine environment that we have here, and want to see it protected so that we can continue to enjoy it. It would be devastating to lose what we have because we are careless with our actions and ignore the impacts of what we do on the environment. Seeing rubbish and fishing line amongst these ecosystems and entangled around marine life, or seeing the animals I'd love to watch swimming about caught on hooks, or these elegant smooth rays with their barbs cut off by fishermen, or seeing and hearing how the effects of climate change are more rapidly eroding our stunning coastline is always really disheartening. That's why it's so important and so great to see when the community does come together to try and make a positive difference, like coming together to save Flinders Pier from being demolished and losing all that beautiful life under there. Or advocating for a no-take season when the giant spider crabs aggregate here in their thousands to molt to stop so many people from taking so many of these awesome crabs. Or raising awareness for the treatment of our beautiful stingrays and asking for increased patrolling to prevent so many fishermen from mistreating them in cruel and illegal ways. Or the thousands of people from across the country that kept fighting to stop oil companies from drilling in the Great Australian Bight and risking destroying the whole southern coast of Australia with an oil spill. These sorts of things give hope for the future. So if you've only ever seen the bay or the coast from above, then grab a mask and maybe a wetsuit and jump in, and maybe then you'll understand yourself what I'm on about and care to see it protected and conserved too. There's still so much of the bay that I haven't explored that I'm very keen to explore, not to mention all the other marine environments I can't wait to see and play in around the world. Because for me, enjoying aquatic playgrounds is the best part about being alive. I find it annoying asking you to like and subscribe, but here I am doing exactly that, because if you did like this video and would like to see more videos about the ocean or my art, support me in my passion and help me to hopefully inspire more people to like and care for our oceans, then clicking away would apparently be really helpful with that. So yeah, click the buttons. Okay, thanks for watching, bye!